Okay, everyone, welcome to the 10th weekly homework challenge composition. This is the 10th, which means it's the final of my planned lessons that I recorded all in one day. Moving forward, I don't know if we'll try and tap somebody who knows a bit more about theory than I do to maybe fill in some lessons, or if we're going to go for some genre-related things, but today, we're reaching sort of the height of complexity, and we're going to discuss seventh chords and progressions made using seventh chords. So I've laid out our C major scale, but this time you'll notice it looks a little different because I've got all the major seventh or minor seventh or dominant seventh notation in here. So it's still, if you look at its base, it's still C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, B minor. You'll notice there's two flavors of this subdominant in here, and we'll get into that in a moment. But what we've added now is we've got, in the tonic position, that's a major seventh. We've got a minor seventh, a minor seventh. We've got another major seventh, or what works with the subdominant is you can use the major seventh or the major seventh flatted five. And I'll discuss those momentarily. We've got our dominant seven, and we've got another minor seven here, and then finally, rounding out where the diminished chord goes, we've got a minor seventh flatted five. So very briefly, let's just go back to triads real quick for anyone who isn't necessarily caught up, and just briefly discuss. So if we take our C major triad, it's made up of three notes. It's the C, the E, and the G. It sounds like this. And if we flat the third on that, we get the minor triad. So that's C, E flat, G. That sounds like that. Now, the major seventh, what we do is we add in the seventh note in the scale. So in this case, the major seven is C, E, G, B, and that sounds a little something like this. Right? It's very pretty. Now, when we were doing all of those dominant sevenths, those all add a flatted seventh note. So we discussed that before. So now we've got a B flat taking the place of the B. And so that's 1, 3, 5 flatted seven, and it sounds like this. Right? A little dissonant in this context, but we learned just how well it works when it's used properly with other chords around it. We also have the minor seventh, so we're going to flat the third and flat the seventh, and that sounds a little something like this. And then we round all that off with the major seven flatted five, so it's a first, a third, a flatted fifth, and a seven, and that sounds a bit like this. And those chords, by themselves, they're sort of jarring, but let's go ahead and we'll build a progression using the craziest of those chords. So we'll do a 6 minor 7. We'll do the 4 major 7 flatted 5. Then we'll modulate to the 4 major 7. Then we're going to play that 7 diminished 7, so that's the minor 7 flatted 5. And then finally, we'll round that out by coming back to the tonic for the major 7. And I think when you hear it, you'll understand that even though by themselves these chords sound a little jarring, they actually flow very beautifully from one to the other. So I'm going to play an example, and we'll use A minor 7, so that's A, C, E, G. Then we'll play F major 7 flatted 5, so it's F, A, B, E. Then we'll just change that B by going up a step, half a step to C. So now we're playing the F major 7, that's F, A, C, E. Then we'll play the B minor 7 flatted 5, that's B, D, F, A. And like I said, we'll resolve back to the tonic, because that's a C major 7, and that's C, E, G, B. Okay, so it's not exactly Thelonious Monk, but it's something, and it doesn't sound anywhere near as discordant as one might expect based on those chords when you hear them by themselves. And that's true for the whole range of other chords, that we could be looking at, but we're not, because we're focusing on seventh chords this week. I'd like everyone to try and play around with substitutions. I've listed out what chords are available when you're using a major scale and you're just looking at the seventh chords. Certainly, you could take some of those progressions that we've been working on and try and fill in, switch them to all versions of seventh chords that work, whether it's changing some of those fourths to major sevenths or major seventh flatted fives or modulating between the two just to get a feel for those. So good luck, everybody. I realize there's probably going to be follow-up questions, so I'll be around if you need me, and good luck. Bye.